So it is afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's David Peake, Product Manager for Application Express, or Avid Peake. I'm Product Manager of Rackle Application Express. Hang on a minute, I'll just move my slides a little. Didn't help, but anyway. It did spill my water though, so that's good. So, standard safe harbour slide. I'm sure you've seen it a number of times. I'm talking about Application Express 5.0, apexea.oracle.com. You can go and sign up for yourself on the new 5.0 early adopter, so you can kick the tires and play for yourself. I'm going to screen through the agenda, screen through the introduction. Then I'm going to talk about web applications, talk a little bit about jQuery Mobile, and then get into more specifics with Application Express. So, I don't know if any of you guys were in this morning sessions with Tom. Started back in mainframe, client server. More recently, we've been concentrating on building web applications. That's now extended out to mobile applications and applications on the Internet of Things. Fundamentally, the onslaught of mobile applications is just growing exponentially. There used to be a time when, if you thought of mobile applications, all you would think of is salespeople or service people that are out in the field and they need mobile applications. However, what we've found is with the proliferation or with the very large number of smartphones that are out there in the community now, that there's more and more applications being built for just about everybody for a whole range of different uses. And if nothing else, what this is showing us is this research is showing us that people are using their smartphones predominantly for applications and not so much for just browsing around and using it to, check out sites from their mobile devices. One of the most telling things is this one at the bottom here, that in 2015, that mobile development will be 4-to-1 from desktop development. Hopefully you're all aware of what Application Express is, so I'm just going to skip through these slides. It's a bit on the history, the fact that it's no cost option, so you can build as much as you like without paying licensing fees. Very simple architecture, browser talks through to the Oracle database. In the mobile world, this is actually very important. What we're building is browser-based mobile applications, not on device. So we're going to have your mobile device talking through directly to the server. We're not storing things locally on the phone itself. If you want to find out more about Application Express, simply go to otn.oracle.com/apex. And there's a large number of books. And one of those books, in fact, is specifically on mobile applications. Now, I'm actually one of the co-authors of this book. Believe me, I get no royalties from this. And the other authors in there, Roel Hartman and Christian Rakita, have put in a lot of effort. I did all the fluffy writing up front in one of the other chapters, but there is some very useful information in here on how to go about building mobile applications. If you want to try out for yourself, as well as that early adopter site, there's also apex.oracle.com. Now this is running our current production release, which is 4.2, which was when mobile was first released. Now I'm going to change and talk about the different types of applications that you can develop for mobile devices. There's the native applications. So native applications are one you download from the Apple App Store or from Google Store, etc. They actually are installed onto your device and you're running it directly from that interface. As such, they look and perform the best. They're the best performing because of the fact they're running directly on the actual device, and because of the fact that they're built with the native language, then they actually look most like the other applications on that device. One of the single biggest problems with native applications is if you want it on multiple different devices, then you need to have multiple different code sets, one for each one. Now, what I'm talking about here today is HTML5 or web applications. The biggest single advantage of these applications is you write them once and they run anywhere. They run in your browser, they use HTML5, JavaScript, CSS. When it comes to doing an update, then all you need to do is actually update the server where this information is retrieved from, and every single user gets that update immediately, as opposed to on devices where, you know, I've got a number of games on my phone. You know, I like to do things while I'm sitting in a little steel tube flying around the world doing nothing much. Of course, that's the only time I use them. You know, it's the only time I play games is on a plane. But anyway, when it comes to an upgrade, I might get a notification, there's an upgrade. I have to go and manually go and grab it and download it. With a web-based mobile application, I don't have that because of the fact that the updates are actually implemented onto the server, not directly onto the device. There are some limitations with respect to web-based mobile applications. For example, accessing things like your GPS and things like that. You don't have direct access to all of the capabilities of your phone because you're running it from a browser. Now, Application Express has always been a web-based application that operates through the browser. As such, you can take any existing Apex application and run it directly on any mobile device, and it will work to a fair degree. Now, some aspects of the application will work better than others, and some applications will look relatively good on a mobile application and will also perform well on a mobile application. However, applications that are built for the desktop won't always scale very well and won't always, you may need to do a lot of zooming in to be able to see things, a lot of scrolling through left, right, up, down, etc. to be able to see the information. And they're not designed for mobile devices. With 4.2, we introduced the mobile-specific capabilities so that you could build an application which is best suited to run on these smartphones. And that includes a number of capabilities which make it look very much like a native application and also, very importantly, operate like a native application. Part of that is responsive web design. So responsive web design allows the applications to change their perspectives based on the available real estate. Within Application Express for both desktop applications, we have a theme which is a responsive theme, Theme 25, but all of our mobile applications are also responsive. And the best way to actually demonstrate that is to just show you an application. So I'm just going to very quickly go to a site written in Application Express which is responsive. So if I just go to www.oracle, in fact, hang on a minute, I'm going to change my mind and go into apex.oracle.com, sign in, and I'm just signing in so I can now get it my sample database application, which is a responsive application. Should be in here somewhere. Right near the top, great. And I'm just going to run this application. So when I first run this application, and I'm on full width, then you'll see that the various regions, there's regions side by side, and that I've got a number of different regions on this page. Now, if I go and resize my browser to simulate that this is running on a smaller device, then you'll see that it's responsively moved those regions so that they're now all vertically aligned. Just move it across slightly. Now, if I actually drill in to a particular region and I want to get to a form here, I'm just first of all going to go back to full screen. When I'm in full screen mode, then you'll see that all the labels are to the left and that different items are different widths. Again, when I go into a smaller form factor here, then it actually transposes those labels and puts them above, and all of my columns are full width. And the reason that it does that is so that you get the best experience possible on a smaller form factor using exactly the same application. So that's a desktop application which is acting responsively. Our mobile applications are also responsive, and the reason that that is very important is a mobile application may be running on a large tablet or on a very small smartphone, and no matter which, and the smartphone, so it may be in portrait or in landscape. So no matter what orientation or what screen size, the application itself will respond to a display the best it can on the available real estate. The way that we actually do that is not based on the screen resolution, but based on the width and height of the actual display. So there's some key differences between a desktop application, whether it be responsive or otherwise, and a mobile application. To me, one of the biggest single problems with a desktop application is that you can't access all of the events available on a mobile. But there are other problems as well. For example, when you're running a desktop application, it's a very heavy application. Generally has a lot of images, you have breadcrumbs and tabs and other sorts of navigation elements, which really are heavy and need to be downloaded to your browser from your smartphone. The other key thing from here is that for applications which are designed primarily for desktop, say a marketing application, then they're very well suited to building a responsive application because primarily most users are going to be looking at it from a desktop. However, sometimes they'll be looking at it from other devices and you want it to display well. However, if you've got an application where they need to start entering in data and that sort of thing, then it's much better to actually build a mobile-specific application for those sorts of events. What we've actually implemented within Application Express is a jQuery mobile framework. The big advantage from our perspective is it allows you as developers to simply concentrate on what page components are important to you and not worry about what sort of device they're running, what sort of browser they're running, whether it's a brand new phone that's HTML5 compliant or an old phone or an old tablet that doesn't have the same capabilities. The jQuery mobile framework takes all of that into account for us and presents the application in the best possible way that it can for the given device, for the given browser, and based on the capabilities of that device. It has a united user interface, and so that means that it will look exceedingly similar on all devices. And so if you're running it on an iPhone and then you go and run it on a Droid device, it'll look very similar. It's very lightweight, which to us is very important because if you're running a desktop application, chances are that your computer is plugged into a network. And so bandwidth isn't that much of a problem. However, when you're running a mobile device, especially if you're not in your native country and you have to rely on Wi-Fi, like I am, then you may have very poor bandwidth. And so the lighter and smaller the packets that you need to download, the more responsive your applications are going to be. Another thing that's important is accessibility. So when we first started building computer applications, nobody really thought of building applications that were accessible to those with sight impairment or with hearing impairment or anything else. Instead, we just built applications for ourselves and for our end users without really thinking about our whole user community. One of the reasons for that was the primary users that we were developing for were back-end users that were specialists and had been trained up in how to use these applications. The majority of applications that you will be building, especially for mobile, is for the general populace. And so you will have a wide range of different abilities. And so it's even more important that you understand about accessibility and how to build accessible applications. And the jQuery framework provides a lot of that for us. Another key thing is it's designed to be touch first. So being able to interpret, for example, orientation changes, taps, swipes, all that sort of thing is very important to make it a more natural feeling application. So, for example, if you wanted to go down to the next record, you don't always want to have to go and find a next button and click next. It's much nicer to be able to just swipe, which is a very natural thing to do on a lot of mobile devices. The way that we've been able to incorporate our navigation is utilizing Ajax, which is part of what the jQuery framework provides for us. And I'm skipping through these slides very quickly because I want to get to the demonstration as fast as I can. So within Application Express, you can define desktop applications. Then you can also define mobile applications. You can have either a separate application for each, or you can have one application which includes both user interfaces. When you're defining an application, you define a number of different pages. Each single page must be one user interface. So you must decide whether it's a desktop page or a mobile page. And depending on what sort of page you select, will also change what options are available to you. We've also introduced a number of HTML5 components. For example, there's HTML5 item types, there's HTML5 charts, and HTML5 calendar. When you're defining each of these user interfaces, you must define a theme for each. You also define the correct a home page for each and a global page for each. The global pages are for storing components which should be displayed on all of the pages. So things like your navigation items. And if you think about it, on a desktop, I want to see breadcrumbs, I want to see tabs, all that sort of thing, because I've got a lot of real estate. And so I want to give the users those sort of components. However, on a mobile device, I've generally got a very small form factor, and so I really don't want to take up half of that screen with tabs and things like that. And so I want to have a different global page for each. To make life easier for you, we've greatly enhanced the wizards so that when you're creating a page, after you've selected the page type, we will only show you the most appropriate page, only show you the most appropriate regions to go on each one of those. So I'll show you that when I get into it. One of the most common components that you will use when you're building mobile applications is a list view. And the main reason for that is when you're building a desktop application, you generally use reports, and you can have any number of rows, and with a mouse it's very easy to select a specific record. However, on a mobile device, your pointing device is actually a big fat finger, and as such it's much harder to select a specific record, and you're much better to use lists where you show a small amount of information and then you select a particular record within that list, and you drill down and see more information. You can keep drilling down and see small amounts of information at a time. with many mobile devices, they don't have flash capabilities, and so we have a HTML5 charting engine. So all mobile applications will actually display charts in HTML5. When it comes to deploying your applications, then basically you can run them through any browser that you have on your smartphone. If you do need to interact directly with the components on your phone, such as GPS, your camera, compass, that sort of thing, then you can utilize a product called PhoneGap, which is basically Cordova, and that will actually wrap your application and allow you to install it on device. And they provide a number of APIs that you can utilize to actually access the devices, the components on your device, and utilize them within your application. So, now what I'd like to do is very quickly talk about Application Express 5.0 specific features. With Application Express 4.2, we had a lot of problems showing reports properly. And I'm just going to go in and do demonstrations. So rather than talk about this stuff, let's go and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to go into the early adopter, and I'm just going to sign in. And I signed in earlier, so it's taken me straight in. And what I'd like to do is just run my sample database application, which is right here. And I'm simply going to run this application, and you will see, oh, you probably can't see that from here. If you've got a smartphone, then if you actually type in that URL, apexea.oracle.com/pls/apex, if $P equals 170, then you too can log into this same application. And I'm just gone and lost my phone. It's down here somewhere. Where did I put my phone? Anyone see my phone? Apologies for this. It should be right here in my pocket, but it isn't. Tom must have stolen my phone. I'll have to talk to him about that. I blame it all on Tom. Oh, I know why. I left it in my jacket. So, too many pockets in my jacket here, so it's got to be here. Okay. I thought it had to be there. Where I went, and I'll do it without that. Okay, so if you've been, people have been able to put in that URL? If so, it'll come up and ask you for a username and password. Now, if you put in the username of GUOB and the password of GUOB, then it should take you in. And you should be able to see this application. However, the application you will see will not look at all like this. The reason being that it's actually got auto detection, and so it will actually be running the mobile user interface, which looks much more like this. And so you'll see that the home page that's being designed is very different from a mobile application as opposed to the full site. So the full site's got charts and reports and quite a bit of information, and the mobile one is generally very simple and utilising lists and what have you. So what I can do is I can actually drill into one of these lists here, and you'll see that from the customers list, I've got their name, credit limit, etc. I've also got their phone number. You'll see that some of the people, when I was running the same session in Brazil, actually entered in their names. I'm just going to go into one of the existing records in here. And here's the form that's being shown. Now, if I was to be showing this on my mobile device, then when I actually went into the postal code, it would actually pop up the standard keyboard. However, when I went to the next field, we've actually put item subtypes on here so that it actually will change the pop-up keyboard to include a @ and the period, because they're often utilised within an email address. When I go to a phone number, it's actually been defined as a subtype as well, a phone number. And so instead of coming up with a standard keyboard, it'll actually come up with a numeric keyboard, because I want to be able to put in numbers into that field. Then you guys that have been able to log in, and that username was GUOB, G for good, U for umbrella, O for Oracle, B for Bob. And the password is the same, all lowercase. And then again, when I go to the URL field, then it'll actually not have a space bar at all, because you're not allowed spaces in a URL. Instead, it will have a slash, period, and a .com, because you often put .com into a URL field. In a similar way, you'll notice the navigation, all I have is a home button, which you can't even see on this one. Hang on, let me just make this a bit smaller. So all I have is this home button, is how I get back to the main menu, or I use the phone built-in capability to just go back to the previous page. Now what I'd like to do is go into the reports. And if I click on one of these, for example, customer orders, then if I click on it, I said, it may take a short period, though it shouldn't. Come on. Did I say that I was running this over Wi-Fi? So for those of you who were in the earlier session this morning, this is a network problem. It's not an application. Oh, there we go. Let's kill the page. But it has finally come up. This is actually running a HTML5 chart. One of the things that we've done is when we're designing the mobile page, the last thing in the world you want to do is, if you've got a legend, like we have here where we're showing the different categories, we don't want to position that right at the bottom of the page, because then we're expecting our users to scroll all the way to the bottom of the data to see what the different categories mean. Instead, we've designed them to be at the top. And so I can easily go through and see the various data that's there. It will actually respond appropriately, so if I'm running this on a smaller screen, it'll show it appropriately. The other thing we've got is a screen that completely disappears. I don't quite know where that went, but anyway. Let's click on calendar, and if I actually go back a previous month, you'll see that there's actually highlights on those where there's actually data, and I can easily drill into one of those records. If I actually go back and I just have a look at the orders here. Now, what we're doing, and that's interesting. Hello, what happened to my orders? Where are my orders? Okay. Let's not have a look at orders. I will have to do this a different way. So what I'm going to do is go back to the application builder, and I'm going to go and create a new application. So what I want to do is just create an application to show you a standard report, and then be able to show you some of the new reporting techniques that we've created. So we're going to create an application. I want a mobile application, and I'm going to give this one a name of CLOUG mobile. That'll do. And I'm going to go and add some pages on here. So, hang on a minute, I'm just going to make my browser wider again. Add some pages. And it's come up with the different options here. I want to create a column toggle report, and so I just need to specify the table, and I'm going to use my favorite emp table, add that one in, and I'm just waiting for it to respond. There we go, it's added that one in, add another page. And I'll do a reflow report. And again, I'll use my emp table. And add that in. Okay, come on, I'm in a hurry here. And then I'm just going to go and create my application. And everything looks good, create the application. Just waiting. And I'm not a very patient person. So I'll tell you what, no, I shouldn't start telling jokes. It's come back, thank God. So now I can run this application. And it's asking me to log in, so I'm just going to use GUIB. And in fact, if you wanted to play with the same application, all you'd have to do is change your URL to be f*p equals 11460. So as soon as I've developed these applications, anybody with the right URL and credentials can start running them. So I'll just log in. And the first thing you'll notice is I have this panel here, which is new for 5.0, which I can use for my navigation. So I'm going to go to the first one here. And this is a column toggle report. And this allows me to change the columns that are displayed. If I go back into the application builder, and that is actually page 2, what I can do is within that report, I'm just loading it up now, is I can have a look at the different columns, and I might select, for example, the first 3 are very important, and I just need to move this over so I can see my properties. And if I go down through here, in here I have, where is it, sequence? No, I don't want the sequence. I've got a priority here of high blast. The manager, I'm going to change to a priority of 2. Hire date, priority 3. Salary and commission, 5, and department 6. Okay, so I've changed those. Now I'm going to run this again. So when I'm running on full screen on, say, a large tablet, then it can generally display all of them. But you'll see, for example, that at the moment, it's only showing up to the hire date, and it's already hidden the salary, the commission, and the department number. If I wanted to, I could actually go and bring one of those back in, and it would try and squeeze them in. As I change the size of this browser, then you'll see that various columns are disappearing based on that priority order that the developer set. And so this is called a column toggle. Another way we can do things is what's called a reflow. So at the moment I've got enough real estate so it can show everything. But again, if I make this smaller, it'll get to a certain point where it's too small. And so what it will actually do is, instead of showing one row for the record, it will show multiple rows for a single record. So you can still see all of the information very easily on a very small display. And so these are some of the new techniques that we're bringing in with 5.0 to make it so that you can have well-formed reports that will still work well no matter what size resolution you're playing with. One of the other things I want to very quickly show you is if I go back to the application builder here, and I'm supposed to finish like about now, but that's all right. I'm going to go slightly over. You guys don't want to eat, do you? No? Good. I'm going to keep talking. If I go into the sample database application, now this is an example of an application that has both a desktop and a mobile. So I'm going to go and create a new page. And when I go to create page, up the top here it's asking me what user interface I want to create this page for. If I leave it as desktop and I'm going to report, you'll notice in here that there's interactive reports, classic reports, etc. If I go back,